Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to introduce Nancy Secrest, who is going to give a presentation on the Theosophical Order of Service. Just a few words about Nancy. She's currently the International Treasurer for the Society, and she's been that since 2017. Before that, she was the National Treasurer of the Theosophical Society in America for 18 years. She's just been telling me that she's started searching for a deeper meaning to life since she was 12. And it was when she was 20, she discovered Theosophy. She's been involved with the Society ever since that time, and with the Order of Service since Theosophical Order of Service since 2009. And I've ascertained that she's a very busy lady. And between being the International Treasurer, which is she does an absolutely fantastic job, I can assure you, because I've been at the council meetings, and it's such a complicated job. It's, isn't it?
It is.
Anyhow, she does make it very understandable to even people like me who don't have much idea of finance. And between that, doing that job and being the International Secretary for the Theosophical Order of Service, she doesn't have a lot of time to do anything else. And it's my pleasure to introduce Nancy, who's going to give a presentation about the work that the TOS does. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Jenny. Annie Besant, the second president of the Theosophical Society, announced the founding of the Theosophical Society Order of Service and published its provisional constitution in the February 1908 supplement to the Theosophist. This document stated its purpose and set forth a structure of governance. It begins. I hereby constitute an order to be called the TS Order of Service, under the constitution of which leagues may be formed for any special purpose on which a group of members is agreed. The provisional constitution of the TOS outlined an organization of leagues. Within 3 years, there were over 60 recorded leagues or groups around the world. They focused on such issues as animal welfare, education for the poor, the promotion of Braille, temperance and prison reform, and in India, the abolition of child marriage. Besant herself was a card-carrying member of the Animal Welfare League. The document also acknowledged that Besant had founded the organization at the behest of members who wanted to put into action the first object of the society, which is to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity, regardless of race, creed, sex, caste, or color. This is still true today and is one of the main reasons for the existence of the TOS. Then, in the March 1908 issue of the Theosophist, Besant acknowledged that her inspiration for founding the TS Order of Service might be found in an article written by a master of the wisdom and printed by HPB in an early number of Lucifer. The master's article, entitled "Some Words on Daily Life," said, "Theosophy should not represent merely a collection of moral verities, a bundle of metaphysical ethics epitomized in theosophical theoretical dissertations. Theosophy must be made practical, and it has, therefore, to be disencumbered of useless digressions in the sense of desultory orations and fine talk. Let every theosophist only do his duty. that which he can and ought to do. And very soon, the sum of human misery within and around the areas of every branch of your society will be found visibly diminished. Forget self in working for others, and the task will become an easy and a light one for you. Well, the master's article and members' requests may have been the immediate inspiration and impetus for the founding of the TS Order of Service. Besson herself had a commitment to service since childhood. By the time she became international president of the TS, Besson had been a prominent social activist for many years. She worked for the betterment of the poor, better working hours, better labor conditions, safer working conditions, and women's suffrage. Do you know the stories about Annie Besant working and others working on behalf of the match girls? They were children and young women who sold matches on street corners for a few pennies. The fight concerned the dangerous chemical used in the factories, phosphorus, which gave rise to phossy jaw amongst the factory women. Their jaws were simply eaten away by the daily presence of phosphorus. The experience Dr. Besant brought to the TOS in its formative years was rich, and her writings often spoke of duty, of altruism, of selfless service. Her presidential address of 1907 asked the question, what of our practice? Our lodges should not be contented with a program of lectures, private and public, and with classes. The members should be known as good workers in all branches of beneficent activity. The lodge should be the center, not the circumference of our work. To the lodge for inspiration and knowledge, to the world for service and teaching. Didn't go there. The world was a busy place in those early years of the TOS. The North Pole was reached in 1908 and the South Pole a couple of years later. The first airplane flight was made across the United States. It took 84 days. Can you imagine? The World Congress for Women's Rights opened in Amsterdam. King Edward VII of Great Britain met with Emperor Franz Joseph to advise Germany against aggressive anti-British policies, and there were race riots in Springfield, Illinois, in the United States. In 1910, the 13th Dalai Lama fled Tibet from Chinese troops to the British Indies. Gandhi was at work in South Africa, and in 1922, Portugal approved women's suffrage. When Annie Besant founded the TOS, vast numbers in the populations of England and other countries suffered under the weight of horribly long work hours, meager wages, child labor, oppression of women and those of other races or ethnicities, crime and war or the threat of war. The newly formed TOS leagues worked to alleviate the suffering caused by these and other societal woes. Today, the concept of TOS leagues has given way to project-focused collaboration in its principal areas of concern: education, peace, social services, healing, arts and music, animal welfare, the environment, and emergency relief. For the last number of years, the empowerment of women has been an international focus. And of course, most recently, helping those who have been afflicted physically, economically, and educationally by the spread of COVID-19 pandemic has taken central stage in our work, along with aid to those who have been displaced by the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine. The world has changed since 1908, in part due to the efforts of members of the TS and the TOS, who focused on service as spiritual action, lived the first object and made it practical. The citizens of many countries in the world today enjoy shorter work weeks, better wages, better health care, housing, educational opportunities, and religious freedom than our forebears. The work continues. There are still places in the world today where some of these basic rights have yet to be realized. But all in all, in many places, the world is a better place today than in years and centuries past. In a talk by Mrs. Diana Dunningham Shackleton in January 2015, she said that, quote, "Because the media bring almost instantly into our living room reports of acts of great violence committed on the other side of the globe, we have the impression that the world is an increasingly dangerous place to live." In fact, individual and collective violence has been steadily declining over the past 1,000 years. The number of wars and the number of deaths through war all over the world has been going down for many centuries, proportionate to the number of people on Earth. We still have a lot of that going on, but proportionate. She said that while we need to be careful of statistics, it can be reliably said that today's citizens are far less at risk of being killed or subjected to violence than a century ago, and far, far less at risk than 1,000 years ago. It is also true that because of media such as television, radio, and the internet, with email and social media access virtually at our fingertips, the planet seems a much smaller place. The ease and speed of travel nowadays adds to this as well. The pandemic we have experienced over these last few years showed us its negative effects, with the COVID-19 virus being communicated at lightning speed worldwide. At the same time, over the last few years, many of us discovered Zoom and other medias that allowed us to improve our communications and remain in touch with each other. The pandemic that began in March 2020 continues, with physical meetings such as this one just recently being reinstated. Instead, we travel virtually, with Ajar and other conventions, conferences, and online talks given by various sections accessible worldwide. Ironically, this has allowed us to reach many more people than localized physical programs did. TOS online programs were presented by India, the Philippines, Argentina, the USA, Ukraine, and Adyar, with speakers such as Tim Boyd, Deepa Patti, Nancy Secrest, Shiva Prasad, who is from India, Rika Harder, who is from the Philippines, and others. I am finding for myself that as the world gets smaller in this way, it is easier to see that we all share the same basic needs and have the same basic rights to shelter, food, clean water, opportunities to provide for ourselves and our families, human dignity, respect, justice, freedom, and the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. The smaller the world becomes for us, the easier it is to connect with each other, the more we understand each other. The more we understand each other, the more apparent the oneness of all life becomes to us. As Annie Besant said, there is no other in this world. Each is a different form, but one spirit moves and lives in all. When we look at it this way, we know that by serving others, we serve ourselves. We can see that in the TOS, service work goes beyond feeding the body or the mind. It is a spiritual path that, when trodden consciously and selflessly serves the giver as much as the receiver. This is reflected in the twofold purpose of the TOS, which remains the same today as its inception. The unselfish service of the needy and suffering, and the inner transformation of the server. Roder Bernay wrote, "The Theosophical Order of Service was founded by Annie Besant in 1908, so that the sum of pain in the world may be reduced to some extent at least, and at the same time help its workers to learn through their service and the attention they pay to the quality of their work to purify the mind. The order of service has therefore a double purpose. From this point of view, it is not merely the doing of work which is important, but the manner in which it is done and the purity of purpose behind it. Today, the TOS is active in 36 countries of the Theosophical Society, doing humanitarian work based on spiritual concepts. Today, as in the beginning, TOS workers find a joy and a freedom in their work. Let's take a look at some of it. To begin with, you may not know of the TOS's interest in the United Nations. The TS and TOS have supported the UN since its inception in 1945, as well as its predecessor, the League of Nations. In fact, Annie Besant became one of the first members of the League of Nations Union in England. The TOS's UN committee produced a brochure printed in October 2011, outlining the support shown to the UN by every TS president since Annie Besant. Support for the UN is also shown through local TOS celebrations on UN Day, and our former Spanish language coordinator, the late Fernando Perez Martin, published more than 30 issues of a newsletter about the UN's actions. Currently, the TOS is exploring NGO affiliation with the UN. If pursued, this process will take a few years to realize. Ironically, our diverse reach may preclude us from being able to join, but we are looking into it. One of the service areas shared in common by the TOS and the UN is the promotion of peace. We all know of the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine that now seems to have devolved into a full-blown war. While the TOS does not involve itself in politics, we are dedicated to giving humanitarian aid wherever necessary. During the past year, letters from the TOS Ukraine asking for assistance have been shared with directors and presidents of the TOS worldwide. Here is a quote from the most recent one. Quote, "As a result of the armed attack on Ukraine and damage to civilians, residential buildings, and communications, many humanitarian problems have arisen. As of today, June 28th, 2022, about 3 million civilians live out of the country as refugees, and about 10 million civilians left their homes and moved to the western regions of our country, becoming internally displaced persons. In addition, those villages and cities which were under occupation and then returned to Ukrainian administration are essentially destroyed, and those people need support. So all these people need help: water, food, medicine, housing, basic necessities. Today, our TS members actively cooperate with social organizations and also organized our own TOS activity to provide humanitarian assistance to those who in need. This slide from back in 2002 shows the use of a billboard ad by the TOS in Chennai to promote tolerance and understanding of the unity of life. When I saw it for the first time, its poignancy struck me so much that I wanted to share it with you. It shows a human eye shedding a single tear. It says, Parsi's tear, Hindu, Muslim, Jain, Sikhs, Christians, Buddhists, or a tear of human agony. Think about it. No matter who we are, the tears we shed have the same salty taste of human suffering. Every time society faces a lapse of sanity, we lose our most precious possession, our humanity. Let us now come together to restore our faith in one another, to bring back the confidence which enables us fearlessly to walk the streets of our own neighborhood, our own city, our own country. Let us unite to build, not to demolish. Since 2013, TOS Italy has been active with projects to support the Syrian people fleeing war. The projects responded to emergency requests from the Bab al-Salam refugee camp in Syria. The work the TOS Italy has been doing to aid Syrian refugees has inspired much interest and respect, not just in the Theosophical Society, but across the Theosophical movement. The Italian TOS has sent medicine, food, clothing, much needed footwear, tents, and firewood to those in camps and on the road. Of vital importance is the presence of Dr. Ali Nasser, a Syrian refugee, but now living in Turkey with his family, who immediately activated himself in medical assistance, especially for children. Subsequently, thanks to the commitment of other associations and many donations, at the suggestion of Dr. Nasser, 2 containers with the function of a pediatric clinic were installed. The clinic, managed by him, is still active today and has been fully funded by TOS Italy. Like war, natural disasters can displace many people. Unlike other TOS projects, which may be limited in scope to the group's local area, disaster relief is a concern that we tend to respond to on an international level. In recent years, the TOS worldwide has responded by raising funds to help with cleanup efforts, rebuilding, supplying food and water to those displaced by natural disasters, such as the earthquake in Nepal several years ago and the earthquakes in Italy in August and October of 2016. In past years, TOS members have offered assistance after hurricanes or cyclones and tornadoes in the Philippines, India, and the United States, and floods in India and the United States. More recently, TOS Spain is working with other NGOs in Latin America after earthquakes in Haiti and hurricanes in Honduras and Nicaragua. This year, record-breaking floods occurred in India, and cyclones again hit the Philippines. TOS members were there to help those who needed it. Teddy bears, knitted by English, Italian, and French TOS members, made their way to many children affected by some of these disasters. Psychologists have shown that having a soft and cuddly friend to hang on to during stressful times is beneficial to small children. The TOS in England leads the way with this project. I apologize to the translator. I'm going to deviate for a second because I wanted to point out that in Yanni's talk, I saw a slide that showed a little baby sleeping with a teddy bear. So this is, as of the last report, the TOS England had shipped over 27,250 teddies overseas. 27,000, amazing. Thanks to the generosity of two charities, International Aid Trust and Furniture for Education Worldwide, who convey the teddies free of charge. For the last few years, we have been experiencing a different kind of natural disaster, a pandemic of global proportions. We have all had to deal with the effects of COVID-19 virus in one way or another. TOS members in many countries have given aid in various ways: medical assistance to those suffering from the disease and help to caregivers, food and financial aid to those who have lost their livelihood. A scenario that was repeated in many TOS countries around the world in an attempt to ease the suffering caused by the COVID pandemic included assistance to the elderly and disadvantaged, and help to students who could only attend classes online or not at all, was exemplified by the Hungarian TOS. The Hungarian TOS works closely with the Gypsy community there, providing clothing and household items. This year, the number of emergency support donation requests soared. Elderly couples, families with many small children, and others taking care of older relatives received a sum of money as donation to ease the crisis. Food and household articles were also given. Of special interest this year is a large donation received from the TOS in England for COVID-19 relief in India. The British responded to reports of suddenly increased rates of infection in India last summer. The funds were used to purchase food and household articles in several cities in India, which were then distributed by TOS members in the local area. Food was provided in villages and to old age homes. We also purchased face masks and hand sanitizers in Chennai, supplied a month's food for a girls' home in Odisha, which is supported by TOS members there, and oxygen tanks for a temporary COVID hospital there. Some Adyar employees who needed help with medical costs due to COVID-19 or replacement of the loss of spousal income due to the lockdowns were also assisted. Electronic tablets were purchased for the 8 TS scholarship students at the Adyar Theosophical Academy to allow them to participate in online classes. Many TOS groups from around the world devised ways to help those who needed food and other assistance during the lockdown periods and beyond. Help is still being given as we have not yet seen the last of this virus. Many TOS groups focus their attention on providing or supporting schools, particularly those that teach children theosophical concepts and virtues. Helping children is close to the hearts of many theosophists. Of course, the largest and most successful of these efforts is the Golden Link College. The Golden Link School, established by the Theosophical Order of Service in the Philippines, has been providing transformational education for less privileged children since 2002. 85% of the student body is on scholarship. The school is regarded as a model of theosophy in action throughout the theosophical world. Besides teaching core academics, the school teaches meditation and focuses on developing character, integrity, and self-confidence in its students. At the college level, courses in theosophy are part of the core curriculum. These qualities of character will be communicated to others throughout the students' lives, with the potential of causing positive changes in the world that promote peace and harmony. The Adyar Theosophical Academy has followed suit. The school is located on the Society's campus in Chennai, India. ATA, as we call it, is now in its 4th year of operations and has just added a 5th standard. New classrooms are being built. The TOS in Pakistan. The TOS in Pakistan provides 15 homeschools for 300 children, focusing on girls who would otherwise not be able to get an education. The TOS in Australia, New Zealand, and Italy all support individual homeschools there. It costs $1,100 a year to support a homeschool. The children learn basic educational tools of reading, writing, arithmetic, and various social skills. The TOS in Pakistan also provides nursing scholarships to young women. This program was initially run jointly with the UN Women's Group. It now relies on donations from the TOS and others. TOS Pakistan has also begun working with Montessori teacher training. Members there are strong in their resolve to continue with their various programs unimpeded. This is no small matter, as Theosophists in Pakistan have been targeted and killed simply for being Theosophists. The TS was shut down, but the TOS was allowed to continue, and just this past year has again begun presenting programs publicly with emphasis on charitable works. The TOS in Finland, along with other TOS groups, supports the work of the Alcott Memorial Higher Secondary School and the Social Welfare Center at Adyar, Chennai, India. The Alcott Memorial Higher Secondary School, begun in 1894 by Colonel Henry Steele Alcott, provides a solid education for underprivileged boys and girls in Adyar, a suburb of Chennai in India. The Social Welfare Center cares for small children from the local area, allowing their mothers to attend the vocational training center, where they learn fabric arts such as sewing, tailoring, embroidery, and weaving, or to go to work. Many other TOS groups, particularly in India, run schools or educational programs for children. And TOS members around the world sponsor the education of many hundreds of others. These include a school in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, sponsored jointly by the French TOS and the Liberal Catholic Church. The TOS in Italy helps to support the Little Flower Convent School for the Deaf, located in Chennai, India. Founded in 1926 by the missionaries of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, the Little Flower Convent was recognized by the government of Tamil Nadu in 1931. It became a secondary school in 1968. It welcomes 800 deaf children and young people, giving them the opportunity to obtain a recognized diploma. The convent also welcomes and gives the opportunity to work for blind people, otherwise condemned to survive on the margins of society in conditions of poverty. In Sweden, the TOS helps orphans and street children. Many TOS groups offer school supplies to children, such as these from Bangladesh. The TOS Spain has continued with its support to the NGOs Comparte and Personas, both working in Central America and involved mainly in providing education to the most disadvantaged children, kids, and youngsters in different parts of Latin America. One bright star in the TOS world is our youth group in Tanzania. Getting youth involved in the TS and TOS work is something we all struggle with, but in Tanzania, they have done it. Brazil, too, does outstanding work with youth. Here we see the Tanzanian TOS youth celebrating with children from the Chanika orphanage, which the TOS there helps to sponsor. The TOS Healing Network operates around the world. In many places, healing groups get together, usually weekly, to perform a ritual and a healing meditation that calls the devas to assist in healing or a peaceful transition from this life. Names of those in need of healing are submitted by family or friends and are now shared internationally. During the lockdowns, when groups could not meet physically, many began electronic meeting on Zoom or like media. The healing group in Costa Rica invited those from other countries, especially those countries that do not have a healing group, to participate. Members from Paraguay, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico joined the meetings. Other medically related TOS projects include the issuing of mobility aids, which is a principal project of the TOS in India. The TOS in Puerto Rico collects, cleans, repairs, and sells used goods of all types in a sort of flea market. The proceeds of their sales are used to buy prosthesis or implants for children in Haiti. There are many such children who were injured by falling buildings during the earthquake there, and the prosthesis needs to be replaced as the children grow. Animals deserve healing too, or so thought Miss Rosie Ulix of the TOS USA, who began a animal healing network there a number of years ago. The TOS in Hungary has followed suit. The TOS in Argentina started its own animal shelter 6 years ago. At present, there are 21 dogs and 7 cats enjoying life there. And in the spirit of ahimsa, several TOS sections, Portugal, Uruguay, and Hungary that I know of, teach vegetarian or vegan cooking classes or have produced DVDs or vegetarian cookbooks. In Chennai, while not a TOS program, the Besant Memorial Animal Dispensary has long been a favorite among TOS groups and individuals when deciding where to donate funds. BMAD, as we call it, has grown exponentially in the last 5 years. Not only does it serve dogs and cats on both an inpatient and outpatient basis, it is now home to horses, cows, donkeys, injured monkeys, pigs, and a camel. BMAD helps with the turtle hatching and release program every year. The surgeons there have performed over 1,000 spaying and neutering operations to help hold down the population of street, we call them community, dogs and cats, as well as complicated surgeries on major injuries. Recently, the government of India asked BMAD to assist in a program for wild animals. Several years ago, the International TOS declared a worldwide focus on women's issues, which we have extended since then. We asked TOS sections to sign on to this commitment. Several sections did sign on and are actively supporting women's safety, both outside and inside the home, education for women, equal opportunity, economic opportunities, and basic human rights. The especially fine work in gender issues of Dr. Deepapadi and TOS Bhubaneswar in Odisha region attracted significant support from TOS groups in other countries. Dr. Padi tells that the initiative began when her group went to the governor of the region and solicited his support to put up billboards to educate people about violence towards women in an attempt to stop it. Since then, they have conducted seminars at workplaces, put on street plays, published a journal with many fine articles about women's issues, and a book containing a compilation of these and other articles. Proceeds from the sale of the book, Yes, She Can, go toward support projects for destitute women, and they even conduct karate classes for young women. In the last year, sewing machines were purchased with a donation from TOS New Zealand for use with a vocational training program in the region's slums. And scholarships have been given to 25 young women. These have been matched by donations from TOS Italy, doubling their impact. In Kenya, women are being taught various skills such as hairdressing and manicure in order for them to help support themselves and their families. The Alcott Education Society's Women's Vocational Center, while not a TOS program, is a shining example of providing poor women with skills that will help them to be more independent and to provide for themselves and their families. The center teaches tailoring and weaving. Also, TOS groups in the USA and France help to support shelters for abused women. Recently, the TOS Odisha opened a clothing store where people can donate clothing and small household articles. Those in need can then visit the store, selecting needed articles at no cost. They also give an Empowered Woman of Odisha award each year to a woman who has exemplified the role of women as empowered individuals. In Kenya, the men are not forgotten. The TOS there recently invited applicants for training in tailoring, carpentry, and landscaping. 3 candidates were selected. The training lasts for 6 months with fees paid by the TOS. The TOS is active in 36 countries, doing humanitarian service work based on spiritual concepts. Here are some of them. I want you to know that the International TOS is here to help and support you in your own service endeavors. Whether in your private lives or within the TOS or the TS, the TOS has resources available on its website and people willing to listen to you and share ideas. The TOS's whole reason for existing is to support the Theosophical Society's work in making theosophy of transformative value in the world and in the lives of the individual spiritual seeker. We all need to work together in the service of all that suffers. And this slide is already in Spanish. This was sent to me by the TOS in Spain, who was working in Latin America. And it was written by a local volunteer in Argentina who passed away as a victim of COVID-19. So you can read that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. That was most interesting. And I'm sure you all found it very interesting. I think it's wonderful that this society and the TOS is so widespread throughout the world. And the wonderful work that individuals and groups do. And it needs our support. So Maureen in the front row here, she has a stall with the book, where the books are. And if you feel that you can support that, all the money is then donated to good causes. Thank you. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay.